Okay, guys, today we're going to be talking about how macroeconomics, how both monetary and fiscal policy actions exist in the real world. Okay, so how all this stuff exists in the real world. Let's draw here long run aggregate supply. Okay, so we have our long run aggregate supply here. Boom, we immediately know that this is a recession. So how are we going to fix it? We're going to fix it by either a fiscal policy world or a monetary policy world. So we want some kind of an expansionary policy. If it's a fiscal policy, we're going to cut taxes or we're going to increase government spending. Let's say we are going to cut taxes. So if we cut taxes, we have a new aggregate demand curve. Everything is beautiful. We are back at long-run equilibrium. However, let's remember, in the economy, the fact that the government now is increasing spending is going to have some side effects. They're not raising more taxes. They are simply spending more money. And where are they going to get this money? They have to borrow it. And we have two different graphs which show us how that effect of spending is going to cause on interest rates and then eventually on aggregate demand. The first is the loanable funds market. Okay, the loanable funds market, we have simple supply and demand. Demand is the demand of everybody who wants to borrow money. And what's the key figure in who needs to borrow money or any kind of loanable funds is going to be the United States government, or for that matter, any government. Supply is going to be the supply of people, banks, institutions, other countries who are willing to loan money. And again, let's take a look. As the interest rates go down for demand, the quantity of demand goes up because lower interest rates, I can afford to pay it back more. Higher interest rates, I'm willing to loan it out. If I have $100 left and somebody's going to give me 1,000% interest in a week, I'll not eat for a week. I'll be out pretty good. So we have that. Up here, notice in the notable funds market, this is the real interest rate. So when we take into account for inflation, okay, this is the real interest rate. So what happens? The government is borrowing money. So now all of a sudden the demand for loanable funds is going to increase. Now what's happened to interest rates? Interest rates have gone up. And if interest rates go up, we know what is going to happen to investment spending. And again, by investment spending, we're talking about companies buying new machinery. Okay, that's going to cause investment spending to go down. It's also going to cause some consumption spending to go down. Okay, that's why you see President's Day sales of 0% down, 0% financing for 60 months. Why? Because now somebody's going to say, geez, at 0% interest, I can afford that car. If it's 10% interest, I can't afford that car. So now less companies are going to be having investment spending. Less people are going to be buying big things like houses, cars, things that make up a huge percentage of our consumption spending. And what that does is causes aggregate demand to go down. And what happens here, okay, is the idea that aggregate demand now might not go exactly the way that we want it to. Okay, so let's take it back here. So aggregate demand, we wanted it to be here, but now because of the change of interest rates, which is causing investment spending to decrease and government spending to decrease, aggregate demand will not go up as much as we want. We call this crowding out. How do we fix it? We fix it by using the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve can increase the money supply. And if the money supply goes up, that means banks have more money. That means everybody has more money. More people can loan. And look at this. Interest rates relatively stable. And if interest rates relatively stable, we no longer have to worry about this. And now we have reached long-run unemployment. Okay, that's how we show it on the loanable funds graph. We can show it on a variety of other graphs as well. Okay, we can show it. Let me just erase. We can show it on the money market graph. Now, the money market graph is similar to the loanable funds, except that we're just talking about the quantity of U.S. money, of M1 money. Again, that's going to be cash on hand. That's going to be money in checkable deposits, okay? And that is absolutely perfectly set by the Federal Reserve, which is why the money supply is perfectly lines up and down, right? That's why it lines up and down, because it is set by the Federal Reserve. Money demand is the exact thing, same thing idea here as quantity of loanable funds, or excuse me, the demand for loanable funds. Who is going to borrow that money? So let's go to that same example. Government's going to cut taxes without increasing government spending. If that happens, they're going to need to borrow money. Money demand increases. It's going to drive up interest rates. Same thing. How do we fix it? We need to increase the money supply. But what do you notice? What do we notice here? Hey, Mr. Monachino, interest rates have gone up. Yes, they have. But don't worry, because in the money market, it's nominal interest rates. And nominal interest rates, let's go back to aggregate demand. If aggregate demand goes up, what's also going to increase? Price level, which means we're going to have inflation. And of course it's going to go up, because if inflation goes up, nominal interest rates will go up. But the real interest rates will maintain stability. So we won't have as much of that crowding out. Okay? Problem, what happens if they don't work together? Great Depression. One of the many things that were a major issue during the Great Depression were that the monetary policy actors in the Federal Reserve and the government did not work together. What this did is, at a moment where we needed low interest rates, the government spends. We're driving up interest rates so high to the point where their interest rate, to the point where private investment is crowded out. Okay, once again, guys, this is about the fiscal and monetary policy actions working together and the effects of crowding out.